What's up, guys? Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that it's May 7th, and last year we heard about the development of Nascar Heat 2 around the 15th of May. Now, I'm not expecting to get news on the 15th of May just because it happened last year, but I would think that by the end of this month, we should hear something about the next game. And I'm hoping we do. So, what am I hoping to hear? Now, I don't expect a ton of details, right? That stuff tends to be released as time goes on. They're not going to release screenshots or anything like that. Still a long way to go. But what I do want to see is at least a general list of what to expect, right? So when they finally do say, okay, we're just announcing officially that NASCAR Heat 3 is in development and it's due in September or whatever, just like last year. And along with that, I need to see at least a list of things what's to be expected, that they're working on, and that is a must do for them. Things like filling this game with some life, attention to detail, fleshing this game out, right? Because the biggest thing that stands out to me right off the bat every year is that there's so many things missing that I was expecting to see at this point. Basic shit that even till this day we're still like, why isn't this in the game? So the basics need to be there. We can't keep getting a game every year and it's still missing the basics. So I want to hear something about that. Address that. Reassure us as your fan base, the consumers who want to buy this game, that you're addressing these issues, that the things that we've come to expect from most titles, that it's finally going to be addressed. So adding details to this game is sorely needed, and it's something I really want to hear that is being addressed. Okay? For example, and I brought this up before, and I'll bring it up again because it's one of the things that stands out to me right off the bat. How dead and lifeless that the pits are. When you pit, it should be full of life. There should be a lot of action going on. You should see pit crews behind the wall. The crew chief on top of the box. Miscellaneous people. Just, when you see any race, there's so many people behind that pit wall, you don't even have a clue who's who or what they're doing. But it's full of life. And it should be chaotic. So I don't want to pit anymore and see a completely empty pit area. Okay, that's ridiculous. It's really unacceptable. It was unacceptable for it to happen once, and it happens every year. And it's just ridiculous. I've had enough of it, and I really need to hear that you guys are addressing these things. And that's what I mean about fleshing the game out and paying attention to detail, because this is why this game doesn't have that immersion that it needs. The type of immersion you see in other games. I mean, if you look at MLB The Show, you can literally see every single person in the crowd, and they're moving. They're doing something. That's attention to detail. That is what adds to the immersion. And these tracks, no matter how well rendered they may be, they're lacking detail. They feel lifeless. And that's what you really need to do, is cram more content and detail into the game. All of these things matter, and they add up to the experience. Without these things, you don't feel any immersion. When you pit, it almost feels like you're at a test session and nobody's there. You know, you got to address those type of things. Every aspect of the game, you got to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and fill out all the details. Okay, I'm going to give you, just for an example, it's like you render an apartment, and no matter how beautiful this and how fancy this apartment is, hardwood floors, marble countertops that shine and gleam, if it's empty, there's no furniture, there's no pictures on the walls, they're just lifeless, it's bare bones. That's when I call a game bare bones visually, that's the best example I could give you. It's an empty apartment. You got to fill it with furniture. You got to fill it with life. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of rooms. With, you know, yeah, you got some fancy cabinets and some, you know, the trimming on the windows and the wall, and it's all fancy, but it's empty. It's an empty apartment. That's not something you would release to the public, right? If it was rendered in a game, you would fill it with furniture and life and all kinds of things, some plants, and, you know. So, in a way, this game feels like an empty apartment. It's just the structure's there, and I've said this even since the first game. The structure is there. I don't have a problem with that. You know, at the core, something to build on. But you have yet to really build on that core. It's still bare bones. So I want to hear that you're attacking this stuff and that expect to see a lot more detail and a fleshed out immersive experience. You know, things like that is what I need to hear when you finally, you know, talk about it. You know, I want to hear that there's a fully fleshed out paint booth. That customization is going to be a big deal in this game. You know, customization is pretty much standard in every game. You know, you don't develop video games in general without some form of customization. Something that allows the player to feel like they're having some type of unique experience. That they're somehow immersed in the game. And you do that with customization. So you got to do more than just give us a generic, really, it feels like something from 2 generations ago. This you know, customize the character a little bit and that's it, you know. And like I brought up before, I want a fully fleshed out paint booth, and a great way to customize. It would be cool to customize your own fire suit, and how about customizing your own helmet? You know, all these drivers have their own special cool looking helmets. That's what attention to detail is. To take that extra step. Because by themselves, these things may not sound like a big deal, but collectively, when you play this game, and every time you sense and feel something new, something that was, oh, that's a cool little added detail, it all adds up to the final product. And you gotta have that mentality that you're always trying to elevate the game through detail. You know, attention to detail is important. So I want to hear about a fully fleshed out paint booth. You know, you cannot release another game and be like, well, we couldn't add a paint booth this year. I mean, these excuses are just, it's beyond me how developers have gotten away with this every year. And even going back to Eutechnics, it was 5 years of that company and people saying they're just a small developer, you know, give them a chance, they'll get it right next year, and it's every year it was the same thing, and it never improved. So this excuse is not only old, it's bullshit. It's been proven to be bullshit. You don't develop a game and release it unfinished, bare bones, every year, and get away with it. Only NASCAR games do that. So when you really reveal information about when this game is coming out, give us some detail. I don't expect a mile-long list of everything, but, you know, stuff like that. This game, the career mode, it needs to be much deeper, more immersive. Bring back some of that team building, or even the research and development of the cars and stuff. You don't have to make it so hacky and cartoony, but at least have it play some part in the game, right? Also, I want to hear that you've improved the AI. They'll spread out more. They'll be a little more realistic. That the challenge will be better. You know, the game won't be as easy, and it'll be a little more dynamic. So, and the pit strategy has been improved. All this stuff, I want to hear these things when you reveal the next game. So I'm hoping that by the end of this month we hear something, and you gotta, you know, give people some hope, because I would say 90% of the stuff that myself and other people have brought up are basic things that should have been here by now. And now this is the third iteration of this build. You're not building the game from scratch. You're still building off that initial build. So most of the game is built. The structure is there, the core. You should have been fleshing everything out and building on that. And that's what I want to hear about. So, you know, we got Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out in October, and hopefully there's no more delays. But if you hear all the detail and all the things that have already been announced for that game, I'm telling you, that's going to be the greatest game ever. And I have no doubt, because Rockstar is a company that's their reputation. Now, I know some people will say, well, it's not fair to make comparisons between a company like 704 Games and Rockstar. Well, I think that's bullshit, and I'll tell you why. Rockstar, yes, they're a huge developer. Lots of money, lots of resources. But they didn't start out that way. You know, when GTA 3 came out, nobody really knew who Rockstar was. Yeah, some people, but they were like really deep into video games. But they were a very small company. They didn't have all the resources they have now. So everyone starts somewhere. They didn't just come in with a huge bag of money and hire a bunch of guys and say, make this and snap their fingers. No, it was leadership and vision that they showed as a small company, that they hired people, you know, young, talented, and eager developers who just needed a push in the right direction. Some leadership and vision, which is what I feel has been missing in NASCAR games. And at Rockstar, they cultivated an atmosphere of can-do attitude. So it's like, back then, remember that game was on a PS2. Much, I should say, inferior hardware to what we have today. And to make a game like GTA 3, which blew everybody away, and it was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe what I was playing when I first played that. It was such an amazing experience that I don't think I've ever felt since. But it was such a huge leap. You know, the first really truly open world, three-dimensional game where you can go anywhere, do anything. I couldn't believe what I was doing in this game. And it was just one thing after the other, and it was because of the detail that they added to that game. You could pick up prostitutes. And if you drove to a secluded area, you know, shit happened. The point is that today that's not impressive anymore. But the point is that they started that. They thought of that. They made it happen. And I'm sure that along the way, as they were building that game, there were plenty of people saying, you can't do this. This can't be done on a PS2. But they didn't listen. They had vision. They had passion. And they showed leadership. And they put their they let their balls hang out. And you gotta have a can-do attitude. And they were a young developer. They didn't have all the resources. But they made it happen through sheer will and vision. And that's why they are who they are today. So they built that reputation. So you can say, okay, well, Rockstar's a huge developer and 704 Games is a small developer. No, you start somewhere, but you got to show innovation. You have to show some passion. And that's what I want to see from 704. I want to see these guys pushing the envelope. Don't be afraid to try. Instead, we're still asking the same shit every year. Why is there still no paint booth? Why are the pits empty? Why is this? Why don't we have that? Can't you come up with something more innovative, more immersive? Why is the career mode still empty and bare bones? There's so much that is missing that's basic. But if a company like Rockstar, even when they first started, was developing a NASCAR game, I could only imagine what they would do. And Take-Two is the parent company, and they make the NBA 2K franchise, and you've seen what they've done with that. So they understand what it is to flesh out detail, and I want to hear some of these issues addressed. At least when you announce that this game is coming out, hopefully, like I said, by the end of this month, give us at least a basic list of things what to expect. And that's what I want to hear. So I don't expect a huge list, especially when they first announce. But man, I really do need to hear about the career mode and all these other things concerning the game. And I want to know that you guys are finally going to deliver a fully fleshed out, complete game. You know, these games are incomplete. And you can't keep expecting people to come out every year and support your product, and they're getting a game that feels unfinished, doesn't have all of the basics. You got to push harder, man. You got to be more innovative, you know. And if you got to spend more than your budget, then you got to do it. Every big project, no matter what it is, whether it's game development or just, you know, construction, anything. If it's a project, you know, you're going to expect, you know, the unexpected. You got to expect that at some point you may have to spend. You know, you have a budget, but people go over budget all the time. Sometimes you got to find the money. You got to find the resources to make it happen. You got to have more of a can-do attitude. So now this is going to be the third game of this build. So can we finally get a fully complete, you know, fleshed out game? And most of this stuff is pretty basic. You know, that's what I want to hear, and I'm hoping by the end of this month we should hear something. Judging by last year, it was around this time that they finally announced, you know, the game. So I hope we hear some news. And as far as Red Dead Redemption 2, I am super jazzed about that. And that game's gonna come out in the end of October. I can't wait. I've already heard some incredible things about it. I suggest you guys check out the latest trailer. There is so much detail about that game that's mind-blowing. Everything is just fleshed out perfectly. I mean, just according to what Rockstar's talking about, but I trust these guys. They've earned that trust. They've built that reputation. It didn't come from nowhere. They started off small, and they are where they are today because of their vision and their leadership and their willingness to push. And Red Dead Redemption 2 has been in development for almost 8 years. So I think that game is going to be a mind-blowing experience in a similar way that GTA 3 was when I first played it. Now, I know I might be setting myself up and getting myself too hyped, but I can't help it, man. I loved the first Red Dead Redemption. I highly recommend you guys play that game. It is a masterpiece. And this game looks like it's shaping up to be, in every way, a huge improvement. So I look forward to that game, and I really look forward to hearing from 704 about NASCAR Heat 3. What's to come? You know, at least give us a basic list of things that, you know, you're going to work on or you're working on. So what do you guys think? And I look forward to your comments.